Long before the pyramids rose from the sands of Egypt, before hieroglyphs were carved into stone, before pharaohs ruled the Nile, an advanced civilization already existed in Europe. It did not leave towering monuments that dominated deserts. It did not conquer through vast empires. It did not survive in the way Egypt did. And because of that, history nearly erased it. This civilization flourished thousands of years earlier than Egypt's Old Kingdom. It built cities, developed complex social systems, mastered agriculture, trade, and ritual life, and shaped the foundations of European culture. Yet for centuries, it was dismissed as primitive, accidental, or insignificant. Not because it lacked sophistication, but because it challenged the narrative that placed civilization's birth only in the Near East. The ancient European civilization emerged at the end of the last ice age, when melting glaciers reshaped the continent. As temperatures rose, fertile land spread across river valleys and coastlines. While much of humanity still lived as scattered hunter-gatherers, these Europeans began to settle permanently. They planted crops, domesticated animals, and built large, organized communities. Archaeological evidence reveals planned settlements with standardized housing. Homes were constructed in uniform layouts, aligned along streets and communal spaces. These were not random huts. They were designed environments, reflecting social coordination and shared rules. Some settlements housed thousands of people, making them among the largest population centers in the world at the time. This civilization developed agriculture independently. Long before Egyptian wheat fields thrived, European farmers cultivated grains, legumes, and fruits. They bred cattle, sheep, and goats. Food surpluses allowed population growth and specialization. Not everyone needed to farm. Some became artisans, builders, traders, and spiritual leaders. Pottery from this culture shows extraordinary skill. Vessels were not merely functional, but symbolic. They carried intricate geometric designs, repeating patterns that followed strict mathematical logic. These patterns appear across vast regions, proving cultural unity and communication over long distances. The people mastered long-distance trade. Obsidian, jade, amber, and copper traveled hundreds of kilometers between settlements. Trade routes connected the Atlantic coast to the Black Sea. Goods moved without centralized empires, indicating trust networks and shared values, rather than coercive control. Metalworking emerged earlier than previously believed. Copper tools and ornaments appeared centuries before Egypt's widespread use of metal. These were not isolated experiments. They were part of a systematic technological tradition passed through generations. Social organization within this civilization was strikingly different from later empires. There is little evidence of kings, palaces, or ruling elites. Burials show minimal inequality. Graves contained similar offerings regardless of age or gender. Power was distributed, not concentrated. This absence of rigid hierarchy challenges traditional definitions of civilization. Historians long equated civilization with kings, armies, and monuments. This European culture followed another path. Cooperation replaced domination. Community replaced conquest. Religion played a central role. Sacred sites were integrated into daily life rather than separated into monumental temples. Shrines existed within homes and communal areas. Figurines depicting human forms appear frequently, often emphasizing fertility, cycles of life, and regeneration. These figurines were not idols of rulers or gods of war. They reflected nature, balance, and continuity. Ritual objects suggest seasonal ceremonies tied to agriculture, astronomy, and ancestral memory. Astronomical knowledge was advanced. Structures aligned with solstices and equinoxes appear across the region. Stone arrangements, wooden posts, and earthworks track the movement of the sun and stars. Timekeeping governed planting, harvesting, and ritual cycles. The civilization's relationship with the environment was intimate. Settlements were positioned to maximize resources without exhausting them. Forests were managed rather than destroyed. Rivers were respected rather than controlled. This sustainable approach allowed stability for centuries. At its peak, this European civilization spanned vast areas, including parts of the Balkans, Central Europe, and the Mediterranean fringe. It existed continuously for thousands of years. That longevity rivals and even exceeds early Egyptian dynasties. Then, slowly, it declined. Not through sudden catastrophe, not through invasion, not through collapse in the dramatic sense. It transformed. Climate fluctuations altered rainfall patterns, agricultural yields became less predictable, population pressures increased, trade networks weakened. Communities adapted differently, fragmenting culturally over time. As new groups migrated into Europe, social dynamics shifted. Hierarchies emerged, fortifications appeared, weapons became more common. The old cooperative model gave way to competitive structures. By the time Egypt rose along the Nile, Europe's ancient civilization had already faded into regional cultures. Its memory survived only in fragments. Its achievements were buried beneath later layers of history. For centuries, archaeologists misinterpreted the evidence. They assumed Europe lagged behind the Near East. They forced discoveries into frameworks that denied early European complexity. When evidence contradicted assumptions, it was minimized. Only in the modern era did the full picture emerge. Radiocarbon dating proved the timeline. European settlements predated Egyptian pyramids by millennia. Urban planning appeared earlier, metalworking developed independently, trade networks were vast. The implications were profound. Civilization did not begin in one place. It arose wherever conditions allowed cooperation, innovation, and stability. Europe was not a passive recipient of civilization, it was an origin point. This ancient European civilization forces a redefinition of progress. It shows that complexity does not require empires, that advancement does not demand domination, that societies can thrive without kings and armies. Its disappearance explains why history forgot it. Monumental states write history in stone. Cooperative cultures leave quieter traces. Yet, its influence remains. European social traditions, communal governance, and relationship with land carry echoes of this deep past. Beneath later conquests and borders lies a forgotten foundation, an ancient European civilization older than Egypt. Not lost, just ignored. The civilization historians would later struggle to name did not disappear without leaving fingerprints across Europe. Its legacy lived on quietly, absorbed into later cultures that rose on the same land. What vanished was not its influence, but its identity. As centuries passed, the cooperative settlements fractured into smaller defensible communities. Walls replaced open layouts. Weapons became symbols of authority. Burial practices shifted. Where equality once dominated, status began to matter. This marked the transition from Europe's oldest civilization into the fragmented societies of the Bronze Age. Yet, traces of the older world remained visible beneath the surface. Archaeological layers reveal continuity rather than replacement. Houses built atop older foundations followed similar orientations. Sacred sites remained sacred even when belief systems changed. New religions reused ancient spaces, unknowingly honoring forgotten rituals. The agricultural practices endured. Crop rotations, animal husbandry techniques, and land management strategies developed by the civilization persisted for thousands of years. These methods spread across Europe, forming the backbone of medieval farming systems. Even language may carry echoes of this lost world. Linguists suspect that fragments of pre-Indo-European speech survived in place names, river names, and geographic terms. Words older than recorded history still shape modern European languages. The civilization's art also refused to die. Geometric patterns found on pottery reappear centuries later in textiles, carvings, and metalwork. Motifs pass from generation to generation, detached from their original meaning, but preserved through tradition. Symbols outlive the people who created them. The greatest tragedy of this civilization was not its decline, but its erasure from historical memory. When early historians studied ancient societies, they searched for familiar markers. Kings, armies, written records, monumental architecture. Egypt fit the model perfectly. Europe's earliest civilization did not. Without palaces or pyramids, it was labeled primitive. Without royal inscriptions, it was dismissed as transitional. Without centralized power, it was overlooked entirely. This bias shaped textbooks for centuries. Only when modern archaeology embraced new methods did the truth surface. Soil analysis, satellite imaging, DNA studies, and carbon dating revealed population densities that could not be ignored. Europe had hosted one of humanity's earliest complex societies. This civilization challenges the idea that history moves in a straight line, from simple to complex. Instead, it reveals cycles. Cooperation gives way to hierarchy. Stability gives way to competition. Innovation does not always mean domination. In many ways, this ancient European society was ahead of its time. It solved problems modern civilizations still struggle with: how to balance growth with sustainability, how to organize large populations without extreme inequality, how to live in harmony with the environment. Its failure was not moral or intellectual, it was structural. As populations grew and climates shifted, pressures increased. The systems that worked for centuries became vulnerable to change. When new social models arrived, based on power and control, they spread faster in unstable conditions. The old ways could not compete with militarized expansion. Egypt rose in a narrow river valley protected by deserts, unified by kingship, preserved by stone. Europe's civilization spread across open landscapes, vulnerable to movement, preserved only by earth and memory. That difference determined who history remembered. Today, the rediscovery of this civilization forces a reckoning. It asks uncomfortable questions about how history is written and whose achievements are celebrated. It reminds us that absence of fame does not equal absence of greatness. Europe was not waiting for civilization to arrive. It already had one. Older than Egypt, vast, sophisticated, peaceful by design, forgotten by narrative, not by time. Beneath Europe's cities, fields, and borders lies the buried story of a civilization that shaped the continent long before recorded history began. A civilization erased not by disaster, but by neglect. And now, slowly, deliberately, it is being remembered. The rediscovery of this civilization has forced historians to rethink the very definition of progress. For centuries, dominance was mistaken for advancement. Violence was confused with strength. Monumental power overshadowed social intelligence. This ancient European civilization proves that complexity does not require conquest. Its cities were large but not oppressive. Its society was organized but not authoritarian. Its culture was advanced without being brutal. Recent excavations continue to rewrite timelines. Sites once labeled as small villages are now recognized as urban centers. What appeared chaotic is now understood as carefully planned. Streets aligned with seasonal cycles, homes designed for long-term stability, storage systems indicating surplus and shared resources. This was not a primitive world learning to survive. It was a mature civilization that understood its environment deeply. The absence of fortifications was not weakness. It was evidence of a social contract strong enough to replace fear with trust. Conflict existed, but it was not the organizing principle of life. When violence did increase in later layers, it coincided with external pressures. Climate fluctuations reduced crop yields. Migration brought competing cultures with different values. The balance shifted. What followed was not collapse in a single moment, but gradual transformation. People adapted, they moved, they merged with newcomers. Their identity dissolved, but their knowledge did not vanish. It flowed forward, embedded in new cultures. The rise of Bronze Age societies did not erase the old world completely. It built upon it selectively. Technologies were borrowed, land was reused, sacred spaces were reinterpreted. Even myths may carry distant memories, stories of golden ages before kings, legends of peaceful times broken by chaos. Tales of lost harmony echo across European folklore. These narratives may not be fiction, but cultural memory reshaped by time. Modern science continues to uncover proof. DNA evidence shows continuity between these ancient populations and later Europeans. They did not disappear. They became us. Their story was lost because it did not fit the narrative of empire. History favored those who wrote, conquered, and built in stone. Those who lived cooperatively and sustainably left quieter traces. Earth remembers them better than books. This civilization stands as a reminder that humanity's past is richer and more diverse than traditional timelines suggest, that greatness can exist without glory, that success can be measured in centuries of stability, not moments of dominance. As excavations expand and technology improves, more of this hidden past will surface. Each discovery chips away at the myth that Europe was waiting to be civilized. It was already home to one of the earliest, largest, and most advanced societies the world had ever seen. A civilization older than Egypt, not forgotten by time, only by history.